Have you ever spent hours shading a drawing only to feel like it still looks flat, dull, or just off? I know that feeling. You try to get the shadows and highlights right, but something's missing and it's frustrating. You've probably always shaded your drawings by keeping the paper white for lighter areas and darkening with your pencil, pen, or whatever tool you were using. And since that was the only way presented to you in digital art, you also do it the same way. But what if I told you there is a different way to shade your drawing, and this method drastically improved my results as an artist? In this video, I will show you how to improve your shading with a simple exercise that helped me and still helps me today. We're going to draw and shade a sphere using techniques that can be applied in digital and traditional media. And it's perfect whether you're a beginner or a more advanced artist. Let's dive in and see how this can transform your artwork. I've prepared a grayscale with 7 values. In this method, we start from the middle gray and work our way to the extremes. In the center, I place it a 50% gray, moving toward the darker side. We have 30%, 15%, and 5%. In the lighter side, there is a 70%, 85%, and 95%. Check the HSL scale on your color slider. Okay, on a new layer, using the selection tool, you can press M on your keyboard. Choose the ellipse shape to make a circle and fill it with a middle gray. You can use the fill tool, this bucket icon, or press Alt Backspace. Use Ctrl T to move objects around the layer. First, let's start with the dark gray, closest to 30%. I will use the tool on the circle layer, so everything I draw only affects the non-transparent pixels, in this case, just the circle. I've decided that the light will come from the top right to the bottom left, so I'll draw a little arrow to mark the light's direction. I'll be using only native brushes from Clip Studio. With the brush tool selected, hold Alt to use the eyedropper tool to pick the exact color you want. I will select the gray, I've told you, and start defining the shadow area. Then I will start blending the intermediate region formed by these two grays. Since I'm using a soft brush, the transitions are already smooth, but it's important to keep refining them until it looks good to you. Alright, I'm happy with it now. So let's add the lighter gray. Use the eyedropper tool and let's move on. I like to add the light subtly and carefully, with strokes that emphasize the volume of the sphere. Seriously, don't rush. Alright, that's great. Now let's go back to the darkest side, working towards the extremes. I'll break down the steps to make it easier to remember. The darkest area of the shadow is the shadow axis and the ground projection. I will also take this opportunity to draw the project shadow on another layer, using the same tools as before with the current gray. I'm raising a bit of the edges to create a soft shadow effect. Back to the sphere, after adding the current gray, I will find the shadow axis by blending the transitions until it looks good with the new addition. Gradually, you will notice the richness of values and the sphere's volume becoming more defined. Okay, time to add the fourth gray. Return to the lighter side. Again, carefully, we begin to define where the light bounces off the sphere, already forming a spotlight. Be cautious with the extremes, as adding them too harshly can disrupt the balance. The farther you are on the grayscale, the more careful you should be. Once again, I start blending and shaping the sphere with the added grays. Well, it's looking good, and depending on the material of the sphere and the lighting, we could stop here. But let's push it a bit more with the final grays, starting back with the darkest. Once again, I will find the shadow axis on the sphere, as that is the darkest area. This happens because of the bouncing light. The bouncing light is the light reflecting off the surface that creates illumination within the shadow. The more reflected the surface of the ground or the sphere, the lighter the shadow on the sphere will be. Now, carefully adding the darkest gray, we'll continue blending and shaping, polishing the sphere. Finally, it's time to add the lightest gray. Here I'm really careful and precise because the brightest areas correspond to the center of the spotlight, where the light source reflects. Highly reflected surface and direct light sources usually require a more defined spotlight, which can be achieved with a hard brush. On the other hand, if the sphere surface is less reflective or the light is more diffused, the spotlight is softer, as I'm doing here. And of course, there are various combinations on these scenarios, so be creative and keep that in mind to convey the right message to the viewer. Oh gosh, I realized that I made a mistake. I drew this last addition on the wrong layer. So, I will use the selection tool to isolate the entire sphere. In this toolbar below, I use the cut and paste tool. Clip Studio will cut the selected area from the current layer and paste it into a new layer automatically. I will just move this new layer above the sphere layer. To ensure everything stays within the sphere, I will clip the layer by using Clip to Layer below, indicated by the red bar in front of the layer. Everything in this layer will only appear inside the draw layer of the layer below, in this case, the circle forming the sphere. Then, I will hit Merge with Layer below, using this button here. And done! Now, we just continue shading and adjusting the light and shadow to finalize the details. Remember, always brush in the direction of the object's volume, in this case, in arcs. Before wrapping up, I want to show you one last important detail that almost slipped my mind. Bouncing light comes from all surfaces, meaning it will be stronger on the side where the light source comes from, enhancing the 3D sense. You will notice that bouncing light can come from various directions, like I'm demonstrating with the arrows. Rendering is a push and pull game between the darks and lights. You can polish until reaching the desired illumination. You don't need to use these arrows, they are just guides for you to visualize what's happening, but when in doubt, they always help. Okay, I'm really happy with how this turned out. So I think we can wrap it up for today. This is an exercise I go back to all the time whenever I'm unsure about lighting or shading in my work, and I encourage you to try it out. If this method was helpful for you, or if you have any tips of your own, share them in the comments. I love seeing how different artists approach their shading, and I'd love to hear about your experience after trying this out. Also, if you have any questions or specific challenge with shading or even other topics, let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for new ideas to help you all grow as an artist. Like the video if you find it useful and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the upcoming video, I will show you how to apply this shading technique to a more complex subject, which will really take your skills to the next level. And if you know any friends who are struggling with shading or want to improve their art, share this video with them. Alright, see you travelers!